Rory. You got 3 seconds, Rory. Haley, where's the thing? What happened? Grady and Haley. Hi, everyone.
Hey, how are you?
Hello.
Thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate your time. I know everyone's calendars are hectic, so I'm really glad you guys got to join me today. In honor of Women's History Month, I thought it was a good time to get together with some of my friends and just kind of talk about our journey in technology and IT and share that with people out there and encourage others to come in and join us in our space. Even though I'm building a business and I'm still kind of in the early stages, in 20 years in the industry, I felt it was my time to give back and to help encourage people kind of come in. So what I kind of want to do is kind of go around and just introduce ourselves. Since I'm already speaking, I'll just kind of start. For those that are joining and that don't know me, my name is Marianne Pagano. I am Black Hawk Data's Chief Executive Officer. I have been in the industry about 20 plus years. I have been on the VAR reseller side pretty much my whole life. Back in 2018, I decided to quit my job and start a business and run a woman-owned business, which is harder than it looks. But I think that from my perspective, I think it was my time to do something for myself and do it my way,
Right.
and kind of lead the charge of female CEOs. So that's me, and I'll turn it over to alphabetically Donna.
Hi, everybody. My name is Donna Godfrey. I'm with Visiting Nurse Service New York. I'm the director of network telecom and wireless network services there. I've been in the industry as well, 20 plus years. We won't say what the other plus was.
Right.
I started out, I didn't really go in this direction at first, like I'm sure most of us on this call. I really went to school for fashion, as I always say. And getting my degree in that, I decided it wasn't the direction I really wanted to go. I kind of dabbled a little bit in getting an education in elementary education as well as nursing. I was going to school at night and I was working during the day in a temporary employment agency. And I worked my way through, and my responsibility was really to do placement with different vendors and placement for other folks in the industry. And I had the opportunity to get a job on the help desk. The vice president came into our office and said, "Hey, we have a spot. We know you don't have knowledge of computers, but we're going to teach you if you want, but you get to travel." And I was in my early 20s and I just heard travel. And that's really how I got into it. So I started out in just, setting up all the offices. We used to build our own servers and, go out there and set up the offices and actually teach them on the old green screens.
Yes.
Yeah. I was with them for about 5 years. I had the opportunity to get to see a lot of the US and Canada. Really, I love to travel. And then I had the opportunity from there to go to another similar organization. I worked on the help desk there. I managed the help desk there. I had 20 staff of 20. At that point, it was the time where companies were starting to merge, and I didn't know what I wanted to do at that point. And I had an opportunity to actually get involved in networking. So I was always fortunate enough to have people there for me to kind of guide me and be in the right place at the right time. So I did networking for about 15 years. I ended up managing the network at Henry Schein. And then from there, I worked over at Cablevision doing technical project management. And then from there, I took a chance. I had the opportunity at Visiting Nurse Service. I wanted to work in the city because I never did. So yeah, I answered the ad in LinkedIn, and here I am. So that's pretty much in a nutshell how I got to where I got to.
I used to work at Henry Schein. So really, really fun knowing that.
Yeah.
Knowing that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Where did you work?
I was in telemarketing. I was doing generic sales.
Okay. Well, I was
Yeah.
one of the background.
You gotta start your sales career somewhere.
Yep.
Jill.
Okay, so I have been in the IT industry. My name is Jill Werfel. I've been in this industry for 34 years, so 20 plus, long time. I actually studied English. I was an English major in college, and I was supposed to be a secondary English teacher, so either for middle school or high school students. And that year, I could not find a job, so I went to work for my neighbor's software company. He was doing small business ERP systems. And so I went to work with him, did all sorts of different, things. It was really kind of a 3-guy in the garage type of reseller, and got some experience with him. And then I was ready to get out of the garage, and I went to work for a Sun Microsystems partner here on Long Island. And would you believe I'm still very friendly and still interact, pretty much weekly with some of the folks that I met during that, first
That's
real
great
job
stuff.
in my career. So a lot of us have known each other a long time, and that's been tremendous. The biggest benefit of working in this industry has really been the friends that I've made and kept throughout the years. So I worked on the partner side. I've worked on the manufacturer side. I was with Cisco for about 15 years, both on the channel and the direct sales side. I'm currently a strategic account manager managing the Northeast channel for a company called Add-On Networks. So we're all about optical connectivity. And again, I'm working with a lot of the folks that I've known throughout the years, during my years at Cisco and even my jobs before. And it's really nice to be able to still interact with those people.
Great.
You want me to go, Marianne? I'm V, so I'm pretty.
No.
I'm good to go next too.
Go.
I'm R.
You go next.
It's so funny because we all kind of backed our way into the world of technology.
Good.
My story is not much different. I'm a strategic account manager. I work on the New York City Metro SLED team at Cisco. And I've been working for Cisco since March 5th of 2020. And by March 12th, 2020, they said, don't come into the office anymore. We are shutting down until further notice. So, it's been really interesting the last couple of years. I've been with Cisco. I've been very isolated and remote. So this has been fun times, and we've got lots to share all about that experience and what that looks like. But I started my journey into technology via higher education. So prior to jumping into the world of technology consulting with Cambridge Technology Partners back in 1998, I was working as a deputy director of enrollment management at Fordham University. And that is how I kind of backed into the world of technology. I was working as a liaison to our technology division, being one of the administrators who was making decisions during that time. And just via that channel, I was having, it was Y2K coming up, and we were getting a lot of outreach from consulting firms looking for those business analysts who could have business conversations, right? They were willing to teach me the technology, a lot like what Jill was saying. We will teach you the tech. Just we really need the analysts, the people who can speak the business, the people who could speak to the solutions. So, and I thought to myself, I'm not an expert of any sort in this field. Like, how can you go out there and bill me as such? But the fact of the matter is that my experience that I was bringing to the table is really, it was really very important. And those were the kinds of conversations that I was having. So I jumped on board into the world of technology from higher ed. It was a big step.
So I'm last. My name is Vanessa Gonzalez, and currently I'm a product marketing strategy and operations manager with Splunk. I've been in the tech industry for 8 years, but prior to that, I got my first job in college at 19 because I had to start living on my own, and I also went to school full time. But the first company I worked for was a tech company, Verizon Wireless. And I learned customer service through them. I did sales, a very good corporate culture and training and resources there for a young person that was going to school full time and having to work full time. And so from there, I got a taste of sales, and I was really great at sales, but I also recognized at a very young age, it's a burnout career, and I was more interested in marketing. So at the time I was going to school for psychology. It's very hard to transition that for some particular reason. Then it was very hard to transition your degree if you're going to school for psychology to get into marketing, when in actuality, a lot of what you're doing in psychology when you're learning about statistical analysis and experimentation is the same thing you do in marketing when you're testing a message. Yeah. Yeah. So I had to take a very long road to get to where I'm at today. But I tried different things in marketing. I worked for Macy's.com, coming out of Verizon. I wanted to work in the fashion industry as well, and I loved it. And I got to know about the buying process and product development and things like that. I moved on to Christie's Auction House, and I did bespoke luxury real estate marketing programs. And then I was working at Christie's. I was also finishing up my master's for business and marketing. Because again, it was really hard to transition into a senior marketing manager role, and particularly within the technology industry. I wasn't looking when I was finishing up graduate school there, but there seemed to be a lot of job offerings in that marketplace. And I was trying and applying to anywhere, right? Because I'm coming out of graduate school with $80,000 in debt. Mm-hmm. So I need to have a good job. And so I got the opportunity to work for Presidio. That's how I know Marianne. We worked together for 4 years. She was a mentor to me. We really worked very closely with channel partners. We averaged anywhere between 30 to 50 relationships a year across different technology disciplines like cloud or cybersecurity, data center, collaboration, digital transformation. And that's where my career started, was at Presidio. For 4 years I worked there, and ever since then I've just been growing my career as a marketing professional at different companies. And now I'm trying a whole new type of career path in working with the PMM team more closely within an organization for product launch readiness.
I think one of the things we all share in common is nobody actually picked IT, right? So
no.
And it's one of the messages to people out there, right? You don't have to pick IT as a career. I mean, for me, I went to college for IT. I kind of failed out of college. Then my grandmother found me a job, in the Penny Saver. As a receptionist working for an IT company selling Cabletron back in the day. And my job was to put the proposals together for customers, marketing slicks, because don't forget, back then, no internet. So you had to mail customers proposals, right, in little envelopes. So that was my job. So none of us really picked IT. And I think that's one of the messages to women out there, right?
Oh,
it
for
kind
sure.
of picks you, it
Yeah.
drags you in, right? And then we've all made careers out of it, right? That's been our, our whole career. So I think the message on that is basically, hey, you don't have to pick IT. IT kind of picks you, right? You kind of fall into it. You don't have to be a technology, maven, right? You come in and you learn and you grow different skill sets, right? I was a receptionist and I'm a
Right.
CEO today, right? So who knew 20 years something ago?
I'm finding that it changes a little over time, though. I think that a lot of the young people that I've been running into that have been entering the world of tech, these are women that are going to college for STEM. They're going for, to college for, certain engineering programs. I mean, bright and energized, and they are going into this industry with a purpose, I'm finding. And I feel like that's kind of changed with this new generation of young people who are entering the world of tech. But does that seem to resonate with you guys as well?
I
Yeah.
think because now it's more available, for all of us, excluding Vanessa, probably is that, I mean,
Yes.
again, we were around before the internet was around and before email and,
Yes.
before even like when I used to travel, it was, make sure you have change in your pocket if you had to pull over to a
For a tip.
yeah, like we didn't have GPS and things like that. So I think it was, and again, it was a male dominant industry and it just wasn't that exciting, it wasn't that career that you're going to say like, ooh, that's what I want to do because it was still so new.
Yeah, I think I'm of the early millennial generation, so I'm not into social media. I used technology growing up the way we were taught to, right? Which was really an introduction to computers, but I do agree with you. I find that the newer generation is definitely more technology savvy. I mean, Google is, Google education in general is just teaching the younger generation that is in elementary school and high school how to actually become working professionals. They're already getting those skills now. So it's being more ingrained in our kids and young adults at a younger age to think about technology. It definitely, I was encouraged to explore science, and I loved science growing up, but I didn't want a career in technology or math.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted something fun like psychology or English. And so I think I agree with that. I live in Hoboken, New Jersey, so there's Stevens Institute of Technology, and we have so many college kids running around here of an international community, and they're really bright and driven. And the stuff that I see them working on as I'm like passing their laptop, it's like calculus and all this stuff. I'm like, God bless you.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Somebody's got to do it.
Somebody's got to do it. Yeah.
So, as we talk about things, right, we've all had to encounter obstacles to different degrees, right? We all have different backgrounds, different lifestyles and stuff. We've each had to overcome obstacles. And I'm going to guess there's probably some commonality, right, in the obstacles we've had to overcome. For me, it was really just being a female and being respected, right? And not being told, well, you're only this and this is the only thing you do. And, you could listen to what we have to tell you because you're not really valued, right? There was a lot of times I ran into that in my career, which was one of the catapults of me actually leaving and starting my own business. Donna, what about you from an obstacles perspective, right? I know you started in telecom.
Yeah, well, again, I was, and I will say this now. So this is my first career move here with visiting nurse service in telecom. I've always been networking. I would always swear, and I tell you now, don't ever say never, because I would always say I'll never get involved in telecom.
Yes.
Because again, I found networking more. I found it more exciting as far as the building of things, and if I had to do my career over again, I'd probably go more towards like construction and things. I just like all of that stuff. But the networking aspect of it, yeah, it was for me, it was difficult in the sense of being one of the only females. I'd go to courses, go for your CCNA, CCMP. I'd walk into class and I was the only woman in the class. All the meetings, I was the only one that would walk in. And there was all guys. And so I was fortunate enough as far as that was concerned that anyone that I worked with always supported me. I really was. I was very lucky in that aspect. I mean, there were always those bumps in the road, but I really was lucky in that aspect that I always had a boss, and they were all male. I've never had a female boss that has always really guided me and supported me and really taught me. Always wanted to see me succeed. Um, I always found it interesting when I was at Henry Schein and we actually had to we built a lot of data centers. And it was always interesting when my engineers would be there dealing with the local Lex and all the telecom guys or the union guys coming in to run cables. And they'd say, oh, I have to get my boss. And then I'd come in and they would really literally not say anything yet because they wouldn't think I was the one they had to talk to. And then
Yeah.
I'd say, oh, what can I help you with? And they'd say, oh, we're waiting for their boss. And I go, well, this is her. And then once they got up to that obstacle, it was fine. But yeah, I think that was the first thing to really build a backbone quickly and feel comfortable with yourself to be able to just say, all right, it is what it is. So yeah, that was my biggest obstacles is being in rooms and not being recognized at first. So.
And when you're in a meeting, like meeting after meeting after meeting, and you're the only woman at the table, you do start to get used to it, where you are shocked if there's another woman at the table every once in a while.
Oh, all the time.
I don't think I ever
That's
get
true.
used to it because it's just like it's so interesting how there's like few women in the room when there's being big decisions being made at some of these companies, and I do take notice of that, and I don't think I can ever get used to that. I'd like to see the numbers balance out, more diversity,
For sure.
more and more inclusion. But yeah, it never surprises me. I'm like, okay.
And it's funny on the customer side too. The decision makers, the CIOs, some of the VPs in a lot of our meetings seem to be primarily men. Rarely would I have a female customer that I get to interact with.
I think that this is, despite all the conversations that have been taking place around gender diversity and, women, I feel, are still underrepresented, underpaid, often discriminated against within, in our industry, in the tech industry. And I have found, I have had to work harder than my male peers. I'd have to be perfect compared to my male peers in order to be able to, get the same type of attention, if you will, internally, than I have for, comparing myself to my female counterparts. And I find that I'm often still the only woman in a boardroom. And it does get disheartening. And Veronica, I know that you were saying, it's hard to get used to this. I don't want to get used to this. I want to see more of a network of women. We're losing our opportunities, Marianne, if you will, for mentorship, for sponsoring, these are how the men kind of compete with each other. They get to a boardroom via competition. I find that women will get to a boardroom via collaboration, being that person who brings bridges, together. And so we're the ones who are getting these roles because we're so collaborative, as opposed to male, counterparts will get to the board by being competitive. So
I laughed at yesterday's Golden Globes, not to bring the Golden Globes up after what happened, but if you watch the first opening, I think it was Wanda, was it last night, the Oscars?
The Oscars, yeah.
Wanda Sykes, or one of them, said, there's 3 hosts this year.
Yeah.
They got out cheap because instead of hiring one man, they
That's right.
So I thought that was actually very funny for today, considering
it's very true.
They're now comparing the 3 of them to like, hey, instead of hiring just one person, you've got 3 now because we're women, right? Yes. So it's funny as it is. Like you said, it's kind of not, right? And I do think for people like us, right, I think if you were a man, right, especially in an account manager role, like Jill, you're in a sales role, right, in the sales role, Vanessa's on the marketing side, and it's definitely way more women on the marketing side for like
Yes.
Vanessa than there is on the sales side. I have a hard time finding enough women on the sales side. Forget about the engineering side.
Oh, forget it.
It's virtually
I would say,
impossible.
but I would also say, Marianne, and not to cut you off, it's both male and female, right? Because like I've worked in spaces where it's female dominated doesn't mean that females are always got the next female's back, right? Like, and we've
No.
seen that in our industry, and so I think it's both. It's a bit of both, right? Like, again, it's just going back to like we should be evolving in these, like especially with the pace of today. We
Yes.
should be evolving to be more empathetic towards one another, to have more compassion towards one another, to be more collaborative, because, you know, like the old saying, you get much more done with sweetness than bitterness. And it's just, that's what I try to work towards when I'm thinking about the fact that we're so global now. The pandemic also pushed that, right? We have to work from home with a lot more people across a lot more territory and more functions and more departments. And so I always try to come with the mindset of how am I making this an inclusive space for everyone to be able to want to work with me and see value in working with me. I think that's really important to share, and like especially since, you know, people make snap judgments about you, right? And or they're having a bad day, right? And they're just, I don't take it personally in terms of, you know, when I've had those situations when people haven't treated me right at work, because I know I'm going to still do my job and I'm going to move on and move forward. And so I think it's a bit of both. It's also, there is cattiness in women out there, and
We've seen it.
that could be equally
Jill,
hard.
I think you and I were talking about that earlier, right? I mean, from, you know, everyone's got a different perspective, right? And different women are treated differently by each other, as well as the male peers. I mean, from your perspective, what does your journey look like? Like, where do you feel some of the obstacles you've had to overcome, other than maybe me?
I think they're more personal. Being a woman, a minority woman, a Hispanic woman, not feeling like I was ever like good enough to compete. But I will tell you this, my parents raised me to not think like that because they knew I would have that adversity in life just because of our culture and where we come from. And so they always told me, you deserve to have a seat at the table. And so I sometimes probably struggle, and even as an adult now, with imposter syndrome and not you know, the imposter syndrome, the doubt sets in, and it's like, wait a second, I've been doing this, I've been working since I've been 19 in a corporate environment, and I've not only survived but thrived and been able to progress my career. So no, like, you got this. Right.
And trust yourself, trust yourself, and be confident, and don't let that imposter syndrome suck your confidence. And I feel that that's something I definitely struggle with even every day. Because Marianne, you brought up the fact that a woman in sales in this kind of role is literally myself and Tony Ann. We're the only two women in New York City, right? And on our sled teams. And the fact of the matter is, I have always found where I struggle as a woman in sales in particular, when a man will be very straightforward, very dogmatic, ask for that business, you know, they are looked at. When a woman does that, I hate to use the B word. She's a big B word. She's too aggressive. She's she's a salesperson. She's supposed to be assertive. These are the things we want her to be.
Yeah, I mean, Jill, you've done both the account manager side, Jill, and the channel side, right? So you've had to deal with
that would be a good, interesting,
Yeah, it's been interesting because people, again, management who are driving the numbers want you to be super, super aggressive, you know. But my take with customers is I'm warm. I'm not going to be super aggressive. I'll be aggressive in answering your questions and solving your problems, but I'm not going to be super aggressive in demanding, the PO. I'm not going to do that to you because you're going to end up being my friend and you're going to buy from me for years. So it is very hard with that expectation, and explaining that to, there have been certain male managers who get that and certain male managers who don't. It's all about the number today. It's the end of the month. It's the end of the quarter. And yes, of course, that's important and we have to drive to that. But I think it may seem that women are more interested in the longer term relationship and really providing real value to their customers. That's the emotional reward, that I need out of my career, is that I'm providing real solutions and I'm actually helping people.
Mm-hmm.
Technology can be a maze for our customers and we have to hold them by the hand. And I don't know if that's a more female approach, right? We're going to take them by the hand and we're going to lead them through that maze and get them, to the end goal quicker and, more in a more pleasant fashion, right? Than driving, I hate to use this analogy, but driving the football to the goal line.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like women can be better at that.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's something
And
that
that-
I feel I brought to the table, and my customers have always appreciated. They know they can count on me, and I need to be able to ask them for a favor here and there and once in a while. But I just cannot bring that high aggressiveness because it's a people business. We've talked about psychology,
Relationship.
and
Yep.
English, as opposed to the STEM education. And I feel like sometimes there's so much focus on that STEM education that people have forgot about the value of a liberal arts education and how important it is to be able to write, a correctly phrased email and to communicate very clearly, right? And to interact with our customers
Yes.
and to understand the audience. We have to change, our approach and our behavior based on who they are. And I think women can be very, very good at reading the audience and adjusting the presentation, the pitch, the campaign to who the audience is.
Well, Donna and I are client vendor, right? And I think that we built a rapport because of the fact that, number one, I'm never going to push anybody to do anything, right? And we built a rapport on being friends or friendly, right? We know, I know the line, right? Because she's still a customer, but I think we built that relationship where she can call me anytime, any day, right? Know that I'm going to do it. But again, there's going to be times I'm going to ask for something, but it's not, like you said, Jill, it's not in that aggressive fashion where I'm always trying to pull something, right?
Right.
It's only going to be like when I need it. And,
Right.
Donna's worked with male salespeople, you've worked with female salespeople, you've worked with both.
Yep. Yeah.
Let me see what else is
I
good.
think, we were talking a little bit about some family aspect too, so I was raised in a household with just a sister. I didn't have a brother. And my parents were very good about not telling me what I had to be and not telling me what I couldn't do. So I played Little League and I could be president if I wanted to be president. And there was never a limit on what I should do. And there was never an expectation that all I could be was a wife and a mother. Right. So I'm, lucky enough to be a wife and a mother, and that's a huge part of my life, obviously. But my career, my parents and my sibling have been very, very respectful, of the fact that I am very career driven. And I've been the sole breadwinner. I've been a joint breadwinner. So it's interesting to see the cultural shift in how fathers treat daughters as opposed to sons, right? And how families raise their daughters in terms of what they can and cannot do and what the expectations are.
Yeah, I would say going back to like growing up, because I'm an 80s baby, so I'm an early 80s baby. My dad wanted boys, so he treated us like the boys. And then, my parents separated young, and even my stepdad, who was Italian and I'm Puerto Rican, he made sure like always, like if I played basketball, to have, to get my time in on the court and to ask for it and to show that I'm working hard for it. So I had good male figures growing up to encourage me to do whatever I wanted to do, provided I worked hard to do it. And I really believed in what I wanted to do. Right. And then, like I also had strong female role models too. Like I was thinking about this the other day. If I had a superpower, my superpower would be housecleeping. And I don't mean it in the sense of like, yes, I do a really good job at home, but in my personal life, I use housekeeping as well, right? I have chakra goals behind me. That's housekeeping to make sure that I'm maintaining my relationships and I'm maintaining my creative passions and drives that I want to do outside of work. And so I had really good female role models as well that taught me the value of doing the housework, again, doing the work so that you can be able to concentrate on the bigger things in life. And that's supporting, at work for me, it's supporting my colleagues. I definitely have been on to diversity, inclusion, and belonging ERGs in the past at my previous company at FireEye and Mandiant. And that was really great to be a part of, and I'm considering doing it at Splunk. And again, we're living in different times, but for sure, there's this new generation of kids because their parents want to teach them to be better and to really accept and include everyone, when we're coming together.
So we're down to about 10 minutes. So Donna, let me start with you. Let's talk about your greatest challenge or reward, and in what direction would you tell women? How do they kind of get the support that they need? How do they connect with other people like us? So that's a lot in one sentence, but we're going to run out of time.
My greatest challenge. Yeah, I think my greatest challenge was like what we were all talking about was really to get myself to a point that I felt confident enough to be able to know, like, I know this stuff, like I know it. And I think that's just a woman's general makeup, is that we put so much pressure on ourselves. I remember reading an article once where, if there was a job out there, and it had everything, the classified ad, we'll call it, was, listed everything. If a man did not, even if he didn't have any of those skills, he would go in and say, oh, you know what, I can do this, and that's fine. As opposed to a woman always second guesses herself. And I always found that, for a long time, that took me to be able to get over that. And for today's day and age, I mean, I like the fact that because we are always, and look, we're all in technology, and I'm still one of those people where I don't feel technology is always so great to have. I'm still like caught in the middle of, what, I like that, non-technical stuff. Sometimes I think it's like anything else. I try and balance things out a lot. It's got a positive and a negative. But I think in today's day and age, for women today, or young girls out there today, I like the fact that they have the opportunity, and go for it. Go for it. Even if you don't believe you can do it, just try it. Try it, because now in technology today, because it's more readily available. When I was in the industry in the beginning, everybody held their knowledge close to them because it was all new, and it was fearful, like, oh, if I give out my information, there's job security. Whereas today, I do find there is more collaboration, and there is more sharing and acceptance, and
Mhm.
so, yeah, I like
Jill,
that.
what are your thoughts, Jill?
So there's a lot to think about with this. So, the challenges for me, and the obstacles, that have come up early on were not having the technical background or the business background, right? I was an English major, so coming in, I had a lot to learn. I sat through, a couple thousand whiteboard sessions to really understand what was happening. Most of those whiteboard sessions, the way it was, lots of male engineers, that led me, but that were very, very good partners to me. Occasionally, a female consulting engineer would come out, spend the day visiting customers with me. And, I could bond it pretty easily with people, but it was always a lot of fun to have one of those very, very smart female engineers with their specific, bit of knowledge on a specific technology. It was great to be able to spend the time with them. So I feel like I overcame not having that business or technical background early on, and you throw yourself into your industry and work so hard and do all the studying that you have to do. But in terms of, the obstacles, I feel like they've come from some different areas, not necessarily just being a woman, right? So when you are not, in the boys club, right? I wanted to talk a little bit about that. The boys club does exist, right? And sometimes you have to join them for the camaraderie, and sometimes I don't want to be a part of that. There's some things that go on that I don't want to be a part of, right? So it's very interesting, and I have to do a better job of reaching out and finding, right, the women's club and interacting in a forum like this to build those relationships, with colleagues, with competitors, with customers, so we can have more of that kind of camaraderie, because we do get excluded from the boys club, or when we're invited, it's obvious that we may not fit in. So that's been a very big challenge.
Right, your construction good? Can you talk?
I was also going to mention that, and I agree with everybody. I think really, our biggest obstacle is being a woman in a field that, there aren't that many of us out there. And so what I have done in my past is where I'm finding, if I'm part of an organization that doesn't, that's all boys club, the whole locker room, we don't have any women's networks, if they're not out there, be that woman to, create one. So, I worked for, I did have the luxury of working for this wonderful woman when I started out in selling services. And that was something that, we got to work on together. We got to embrace all the women that were within our organization, building something together that helped each other. So, I'm one of those people to, once I start, with another firm, I'm going to look to see where those networks are. And if they don't exist, I'm going to try and create one.
Miss Vanessa.
So I think it's important that if you want to be involved at work to bring diversity, inclusion, and belonging to your organization, that you step up and you join some of the ERGs and you really do become an advocate, because these are employee-run resources groups. And those are little pockets of culture of change within an organization. I think one of the things when I read, what we were going to be talking about today is really making awareness around diversity, inclusion, and belonging a part of your culture at work. Mm-hmm. I think the other piece of it is, we live in an age where like everything you say can be misconstrued. So it's sometimes hard to have difficult conversations. And so you can't shy away from those difficult conversations, and you have to approach them with, again, empathy, honesty, openness, and really hearing what, other persons around your organization may be going through, or you may want to express how you're being treated to someone so that you can change the culture again. So I think those are like two things where we can do better. In terms of like overcoming obstacles, again, I always think back to myself, somebody's giving me a hard time at work, it's not me, it's them. Correct. And I'm going to do what I need to do to keep on going. And, you're not going to stop me. So good luck. But it's having that attitude that you got to let stuff slide off your back, but be conscious of where that behavior is going or what it's trying to drive. We, as women, we have good intuition. We know when somebody is not being genuine or having a really good intention for you. So just use your intuition. That's why we have it.
Couldn't agree more.
We can talk forever. We have 45 minutes. I have 1 minute left. So I just want to say thank you for those that are watching. Thank you for my panelists coming on with me and sharing your experiences and time. We do want to create a women's network. I mean, we are a woman-owned business, so I want to give back. We want to continue doing things. We have a weekly woman post. We'd love you guys to come out here and help post your story. And then we'd like to do another one of these again. So a round of applause for my guest today.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you. This was great.
Thanks for giving up your time. It meant a lot to me. So I truly, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate it. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right.